the Parsha of the Akedah, as I called it on the WhatsApp, the almost sacrifice of Isaac. And of course, I said that we were going to talk about the moral and spiritual questions in the Parsha. And the question that leaps to mind is, how can the Creator command murder? So we know that question. We're aware of that question, and we'll get to it. But before we get to that, I want the information, the background, to be on a more familiar level. And I want to go through the verses and just look at the verses and raise questions in trying to help you learn how to raise questions and putting things together. And then we'll come back again and we'll go through it and try to answer the questions in an organized way. And then we'll have a question to answer that moral question and others that arise. So this is chapter 22 on page 101 in the Art Scroll. And you should raise any questions that occur to you. That's part of the exercise here. I'm not going to stop to answer all of them because some of them aren't part of the particular theme I want to get from the story. But afterwards, we can come back and try to pick up the ones that I didn't answer. And it happened after these things that, now, G-O-D is what the text writes for one of God's names, and Hashem is what the text writes for a different name. So I'm going to read it the way they wrote it. I think it's good in English to distinguish, so you have an idea which Hebrew word it is. G-O-D is for the Elohim name, and Hashem is for the Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey name. And you'll see that the story changes in the middle, so it's important to have that in mind. It happened after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he replied, here I am. Think of this as the topic sentence. Maybe you wrote essays when you were 11 years old or 13 years old in grade school. The topic sentence is usually the first sentence of the paragraph, which is supposed to introduce you to the subject that the sentence is about. So it focuses you on the subject, and then you have the story or the elaboration of the subject. Knowing what you know, even the little that you know about the story, does this satisfy you as a topic sentence introduction to the event? God tested Abraham.
No, it doesn't say anything about what happened or what's gonna happen. Usually a topic sentence is a preface of some sort.
Okay, it is in fact going to happen that he'll be tested.
Right.
So, right. So I don't think that's too bad. But let's see, what's going to happen? Abraham's going to almost sacrifice Isaac. Isaac's going to almost die. Doesn't the topic, God tested Abraham, leave something out, maybe? How about testing Isaac? I mean, he only has to die, that's all. How old is Isaac, by the way, when this takes place?
37.
37 years old. You have the picture of this wee lad of 6 being led up, all of a sudden, bang, grab him, tie him up. No, that's not what happened. So if I were writing the topic sentence, I would have written, God tested Abraham and Isaac. We'll have to figure out. But I'm following Rav Dessler for a lot of what I say. He has an essay on this whole story. We'll have to figure out why the Torah makes prominent only the fact that God tested Abraham and doesn't put in the introduction to the whole story the fact that God is testing Isaac as well. Okay? We'll have to do that. And he, God, said, please take your son, your only one whom you love, Isaac, go to the land of Moriah, bring him up there as an offering upon one of the mountains, which I shall tell you. What rises in your mind to ask about this sentence, number 2? Yeah.
Why does he say please? It's God, he can command.
Yeah, why does he say please? That's really kind of striking. Now, of course, if you know a little Hebrew, the word is no, nun aleph. And if you look at the Aramaic translation is the same as the Aramaic translation of atu and ayin. It means now. And the grammarians explain, yeah, it does mean now, just like atu means now, but it has a connotation. This is the polite way of saying it. Ayin, tough, hey, would be the normal way of saying it, and this is the polite way of saying it. So it has the connotation of please. And your question is right. The commentators ask, why would God have to say please to Abraham? He just simply give him an order. And this isn't the first time he's interacting with Abraham. When he started off interrupting, he didn't say please. Only here he says please. So it needs to be answered. That's a good question. What else?
One.
Sorry?
You're only one.
Yeah, you're only one. Now, what? Why is that questionable?
Because of Shema.
Oh, because he has two sons. Yeah.
You're the only one that you love.
Okay, good try. I mean, that's the right thing to do, to put in a context which makes sense out of the words. The Rashi, which took me years to understand, what Rashi says is they have two different mothers, the two sons. So this is the only one to his mother, and this is the only one to his mother. But then I thought to myself, but the words we're trying to understand are your only one, not their only ones. It's your only one. How does it help that Isaac is the only son that Sarah has, and Ishmael is the only son that Hagar has?
Well, he's the only legitimate son.
Well, they're both legitimate.
Well, but he's not. Only Isaac is worthy of carrying it on. You wouldn't tell like a king to tell his illegitimate son to take the throne.
Okay.
He's not allowed.
Okay, so now this is another way to answer the question, and that is because in the portion where Sarah says to Avram, "Send them away," the way the Ohr Somayach explains it, the difference between Abraham and Sarah is who is Ishmael. Sarah calls Ishmael the son of Hagar twice, the son of the handmaid, and Abraham is very upset about what's happening to his son. So the difference between is who is Ishmael? How do they define him? And it turns out that she's right and he's wrong. And we know that she's right because God quotes her words in the next verse and says, "And the son of the handmaid, I won't forget him either, but he's the son of the handmaid." So your only one could mean, yes, the only one who's really your son. I think that would be a perfectly good idea. I think it would be a perfectly good idea. Rashi's idea, I came to figure out, means like this. Avram's the father of both of them. Let's take Isaac. So Avram's the father. Together with Sarah, he's the father of Isaac. So Avram is saying, the only child that I have from Sarah is Isaac. The only child that I have from Hagar is Ishmael. So they're unique to me in that they are from me through two different people. So each one is unique. That's another way of saying it. Okay, good. That's worthwhile to. But now, why are all these descriptions here? Are we really trying to make sure we identify them correctly? Right? Surely that's not why they're here, because what does it say at the end? It says his name, Isaac. If it only said, take Isaac, there wouldn't have been any ambiguity, there wouldn't have any question. Thank you. I think it's a good idea. Yeah. Look, stare at it intensely and pray. It may take a moment to go off.
It's like which wire to cut.
Or
There's an on-off button, but it's
Cut the red wire.
set it on 60 degrees.
I think it's off. I don't know.
I told you this. It takes its own sweet time to turn off. Okay, good. So if God is trying to identify who he should take, and he's going to say Isaac anyhow, why are all the descriptions here? These make the conditions of the test. What he's saying is, I want you to do this with all this in mind. That he's your son, that he has a certain unique relationship to you, and that he's the one whom you love. I want you to do the test with all that in mind. I'll give you an example of what this means. I'm told that surgeons do not treat the members of their own family because there's so much emotion involved. It get in the way of their ability to focus on the medicine. Sometimes surgeons are confronted with terrible injuries and so on and so on. I've heard of surgeons just training themselves to be cold, because if they're going to be involved emotionally in what's going on, their medical judgment and their medical concentration is going to be injured thereby. There was a terrible story 20 years ago. A surgeon, it was in an emergency room in Rambam Hospital in Haifa, and his son was brought in from the battlefield, injured. And I think they didn't put two and two together, and they brought him in. There he saw his son come in. So one of the things that the Kodesh Baruch Hu was saying to Abraham is, don't go cold on this. Don't turn yourself off and do it with, shielding yourself from emotion. No, I want all of you to be accessed. I want all of you to be online when this takes place. All these descriptions have to be part of the meaning of what you do. Okay. So Abraham now, here I'm going to introduce something because it's quite important. The English says woke up early in the morning, but that English is not correct, even though it's very often used that way. If you look in dictionaries, you'll see that it's translated that way. And by the way, you can't really trust dictionaries. Those dictionaries have lots of mistakes. To wake up in Hebrew is l'hakitz. Hashkim means, this I got from my second son, definition. Hashkim means to start the activities of a period of time early in that period of time. It has nothing to do with having been asleep and waking up. One of the proofs is that God says to Samuel the prophet, I've had it with King Saul. You have to go to him and you have to tell him the reign is over, he's finished. And it says Samuel prayed all night. Vayashkem b'boker. Doesn't mean he prayed all night and woke up in the morning. That doesn't fit together. He was awake when he was praying. But he prayed all night, and then at the first glimmer of dawn, he got to do what he was supposed to do. So, and by the way, in Rabbinic Hebrew, which echoes the same word, talks about coming early to the Beis Medrash, the house of study, in the morning and in the evening. And both of them are l'hashkim. Hopefully, you're not waking up from sleep in the evening. Hopefully. Okay, so it means Abraham started early in the morning. He saddled his donkey, took his two men with him, and Isaac his son, split the wood for the offering, stood up and went to the place which God had spoken to him. Okay, take this apart phrase by phrase and tell me what occurs to you as needing some thought.
Maybe say splitting the wood before you even get there. I don't know if that's relevant.
That's an interesting point. It's going to take them 2.5 days of trek to get there. Yeah, splitting the wood and taking it with them. It's not obvious why I should do that. Good.
Do we need to specify that Isaac is his son? Like, we already covered that. Isaac
Okay, why does it say Isaac his son? Didn't we just say that in the previous sentence? This is a very interesting point. This happens over and over again, even within one story. It keeps repeating the family relationships over and over again. And I have a reason to think what I'm going to tell you now. It's really part of another story. I don't want to break the context here, but it's describing the state of mind of the person who's doing it. But maybe I'll show you. I'll show you a verse in which this is very, very prominent. Take a look at page 149. I can't resist showing you this. This is chapter 29, verse 10, 2/3 of the way down the page. Look at this sentence. And it was, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Lavan, his mother's brother, and the flock of Lavan, his mother's brother, Jacob came forward and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the sheep of Lavan, his mother's brother. Man, oh man, Shebs, 3 times in the same verse. How many times do you have to be told that Lavan is his mother's brother? Certainly not he forgot or got mixed up. It means everything he did, every move he made was, there's my mother. I'm doing this because my mother sent me. I'm doing this because of what my mother wants. He's my mother's brother. Everything was with the fact that he's his mother's brother is the way he's relating to him in every move that he made. So it's describing his state of mind.
Was he doing that because he knew Lavan was wicked, and so he was trying to say like, it's not about me, it's not about me?
I think that's part of it. I mean, Lavan had a reputation.
Okay.
He had a reputation. So I'm sure that Jacob was aware of that. But, I mean, from here you see that mentioning the family connection is not a question of giving information. And that's what you asked here. I think that was perfectly good to ask on page 101. This is Isaac, his son. He's taking him as a son. Okay, and splitting the wood, maybe we'll come back to that. It was a good question. But there's something else here. If you read the words very carefully, he took, what did he take with him?
2 young men.
Yeah. Keep reading a little bit.
With him and Isaac,
Yeah. What? And Isaac.
his son.
Read it again. He took.
2 young men with him and Isaac, his son.
Read it again. He
He
took.
2 young men with him and Isaac. Meaning,
What?
Isaac is not included in the 2 young men.
Right. And he's not included 2 young men. And also what? Also what else is he not included in?
His son? Isaac.
You're saying that Ishmael is not called his son.
No. I'm looking something on the surface linguistically. What else is Isaac not included in? If you look at the words, you would never say it this way. You would never say it this way.
He's not included in the 2 young men and Isaac, his son.
He took his.
His two,
his 2 young men you would think would be Isaac
Included in
and
this.
Ishmael. No?
No, I'm
No,
looking.
you would think
Okay.
that Isaac belongs to him, and his 2 young men. This is where you're going.
You're just missing out 2 words, which are so trivial to you. You don't even.
His 2 young men and Isaac, his son. Why would you say his twice?
You have 90% of it. He took his.
With him.
Yes, no. What do you want to ask?
He took
What did he take with him?
his 2 young men.
Oh, he took his 2 young men with him. And Isaac?
His son.
Was Isaac with him also?
Oh,
isn't it written strange? Wouldn't you have written, he took his 2 young men and Isaac with him? No. He took his 2 young men with him. Oh, and Isaac also. Yeah, also. But why is Isaac outside the with him? He's missing from the with him. Isn't that strange?
It makes it sound like Isaac is an item.
Okay,
Oh.
okay, that's something else. But that you could have said if he was inside the with him also, right? I mean, the point is that it's written in a way that you would never have written it yourself. You'd mention all 3, and aren't they all going with him? Is one taking the high road and the other taking the low road? Of course, they're all going to be together. Why would you say he took his 2 young men with him and Isaac?
Is that to do with later in the verse? Something? I have a suspicion, but I don't know.
If I were to take a guess,
Yeah.
it's because Isaac is not really with him mentally, or something to that extent. That
Okay.
Isaac is like.
Okay, these are good guesses.
Okay.
Let me show you something.
Okay,
I'll show you something. Turn over the page to 103 for a moment. Top of the page, verse 4, on the 3rd day, Abram raised his eyes, perceived the place from afar. Abram said to his young men, "Stay here by yourselves with the donkey, while I and the lad go yonder, worship and return to you." So the rabbis have a very striking, surprising comment here. Yeah, stay here by yourselves with the donkey. That's where you belong. You belong with the donkey because you like the donkey. You're similar to a donkey. Maybe they're slaves, and if they're slaves, then they don't have family connections. They don't have real marriage, and their children don't belong to them. You like animals, right? You like animals. You read that in English, and you think, my, oh my, how are they getting that? It's a very innocent statement. You stay here with the donkey, and we're going over there. We'll come back. Why would you read that into the word with? Where would that come from? Now, here's an example of what I told you about Chumash. About 500 pages later, or more, we'll get an answer to that question. In Parshas Balak. This passage itself is a passage which has its own difficulties. Look on page 857. Or actually 859. I'll fill in the rest at the beginning orally. Balak is a king, and the Jewish people are approaching the border with his land, and he's very worried. Balaam, I don't know why they transliterated Balaam, it's Balaam in Hebrew. Balaam is a prophet, a true prophet, though evil. And Balak wants to proposition Balaam to come and curse the Jewish people. So he sends messengers to Balaam. And Balaam says, God usually communes with me at night, so wait and sleep overnight. So, in verse 9, top of 859, God came to Balaam and said, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam said to God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, said to me, behold, the people coming out of Egypt has covered the surface of the earth. Go and curse it for me. Perhaps I'll be able to make war against it, drive it away." That's the proposition that's put to Balaam. God says to Balaam, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for it is blessed." Okay? N-O spells no. Don't go with them. So he gets up in the morning, Balaam, and he says to them, "Too bad, out of luck. God told me not to go with you." Okay. So they come home back and report to the king, and the king says, he's just looking for honor. I'll send him higher-ranking officers, the top of the crop, to come and proposition him. So they come, the second group, and they say, "Listen, Balak really wants you to come." And he says, "Stay overnight." Bottom of the page, 20. So the second time, God came to Balaam at night and said to him, "If the men came to summon you, arise and go with them." Only the thing I shall speak to you, that shall you do. But now you can go with them. So the reader, the English reader, thinks, hey, maybe it pays to, push. Even with God, it pays to push. Because first time he said no, but now he said yes. So, don't give up. Okay, maybe you could say that. 21, Balaam arose in the morning. And here it means he got up. And saddled his donkey and went with the officers of Moab. And now, verse 22, God's wrath flared because he was going. And the reader says, hold on, wait a minute. Okay, maybe if God tells you no and you push, it's not the right thing to do perhaps, but in the end, God did give him permission, didn't he? Why should God be angry that he's going? He just gave him permission to go. There's a very simple answer to this question. Only you can't get it in English. Because the word with in English has different words in Hebrew in its place, and they don't all mean the same thing. So let's go back to 859, and I'll show you what's going on. Verse 12, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down in the Hebrew. The very last word in the line is lo, don't. And then go down to the next line, selech, don't go. Imohem. Imohem is a contraction of im, heim. The word for with here is im, ayin mem. Okay. Now, let's go down to 20 at the bottom of the page. 3 lines from the bottom, the last 3 words. Here's where he gets permission. It says, kum lech itam. That's es heim. So they were prohibited from going im, and they were given permission to go es. Now the question is, which way did they go? Did they go im or did they go es? Well, look at the last line on the page in the Hebrew. Vayelech im. Sorry, Moab. He went im. That's what he was forbidden to do. That's a very simple, direct explanation of why God got angry. I told you, don't go im. I said, I'm giving you permission to go es. And he goes im. That's not right. Not allowed to do that. Now you ask, well, what is the difference between es and im? What's the difference in the meaning of the words that generates this whole interaction? And the difference is very clear. Im means identification, sharing, identifying with. That's why. The word for a people in Hebrew is what word? Am. Am Yisrael. Am is the same letters. Ayin Mem. Am is a group of people who are in one another. They share a certain set of values, they share certain goals, share certain projects together. That's what an Am is. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Balaam, don't go im. Their project is a curse to Jewish people. That's an impossibility. It's not going to happen. Don't go identifying with their project. That was the first interaction. Second interaction, listen, you want to go, you can go, but go es. Es is just merely accompanying. There's a road leading west from Jerusalem. Some people are taking that road to go to Bnei Brak, and some people are taking that road to go to Tel Aviv. The road goes to both cities. You see the 2 cars going side by side. You don't know whether they're in one another. All you know is they're es. They're on the same road, but they could have 2 entirely different destinations. So God says to Balaam, I'm giving you permission to go es, only es. And Balaam says, no, thank you, I'm going im. Because he wants to curse, just like they wanted the Jewish people to be cursed. That's why God gets angry, because he didn't do what he was permitted to do. He did what he was forbidden to do. Now, having said all of that, let's go back. Abraham said to the 2 young men, stay here with the donkey. The question we want to ask is, which with? Which with is it? So let's go back to 103 and let's check which with is being used. So, you look in the Hebrew, it's the end of the second line, to be on 102. Shvu lechem po, stay, the two of you here, im hachamor, with the donkey, im, identify, friends and comrades, with the donkey. Boy, that's a little striking, hey? This far, I got by myself. I think I read it in the Malbim, but I got this far researching it myself. My Chavruza said, look back at the verse we started with, Isaac took his 2 young men with him.
Abraham?
I'm sorry, thank you. Abraham, thank you. Abraham took his 2 young men with him. Shouldn't we ask there also which with it is? Well, let's see. The next to last line in the Hebrew, Vayikach, he took Eshneina Arav, his 2 sons, to, that's S. Now it's, blazoned in red. When they're with Isaac, it's S. It's only S. It's superficial. It's not an identification. It's not a sharing. And when with the donkey, it's im. That's shocking. The contrast is brutal. That's at least part of what's behind Chazal when they say, yeah, you guys are like donkeys. Because the words say it. And now we can understand why Isaac's outside the width. Because the width here is the superficial width. It's the width of 2 cars on the same road going west. He's not going to say he took the 2 sons and Isaac superficially, but without identification, without sharing. Can't say that about Isaac. So it says he took the 2 of them superficially and without sharing, ito, and Isaac he took the way he took Isaac, which the text is not commenting on. Everything works out now very, very beautifully. And you see the distinction, and now you understand why Isaac is outside. Now, in case you go back to this on your own, or you talk to people about it, I have to explain a little piece of grammar here. The word that I'm treating as S here is Aleph Tuf. The word that I'm treating as with is Aleph Tuf, which is S. But Aleph Tuf has another use also, and that is to identify direct objects. We have a verb and a direct object. S tells you that it's a direct object. Now, if you look at the verse that I just quoted, it's really quite complicated. It's 2 lines. The second line from the bottom on 100. The very first part of the very beginning of the line. Vayikach es. There's 1 Aleph Tuf. Shnei Rav ito Aleph Tuf. Be'es Aleph Tuf. Man, oh man, the Shev is 3 in 1 line. So 2 of them are direct object indicators, and only 1 means with. Vayikach is a transitive verb. You take something. So Vayikach, the first thing he took was Shnei Na'arav. The second thing he took was Yisrael ve'es Yitzchak. Those 2, the first and last, Aleph Tuf, are the signs of direct objects. He took 2 things with him. He took the pair of boys, and he took also Isaac. The ito is the only one that means with. And that one goes on the 2 boys and not on Isaac. Okay, unclear? So we see that the kind of structure of the project here.
So
Yeah.
the saf is the direct object, and the tuf is.
No. Aleph, whether it's saf or tuf, makes no difference at all.
Okay.
It's you're right that both the 2 other cases it's saf and not tuf, but that's not the issue. Even Aleph saf can mean with. When Jacob goes down to Egypt, it says his children came down with him, and it's Eis Yaakov Avihem. So and that also means with. You just have to know in the context. If there's a transitive verb in the context, so usually the aleph suf is the indication of the direct object. What is it that the verb acted on? If there isn't, then then it isn't.
What is the difference between the tough and the soft and
Because
I know Sephardim, they just do the tough.
That's right. So that here it's whether it has a dot or not, and dot often is a matter of a contraction. Ito is short for es, meaning with, and hu, meaning him. That ito means with him. But because a letter is suppressed, there's a dot. Very often, a dot means there was another letter there, and it was absorbed into this letter. But it has nothing to do with the meaning of it. Okay, so that's what we're up to here. So now let's keep going on 103. Avram. By the way, I should mention this. Let's see what Abraham says to them. Right? He says, "Stay here by yourselves with the donkey, while I and the lad will go yonder. We will worship, and we will return to you." Anything in what Abraham says surprise you a little bit?
I mean, he says return. We will return.
Yeah, meaning, but
He doesn't think that's what's going to actually happen.
right. I mean, he thinks that Isaac's going to be slaughtered on the mountaintop, right? So only he's going to come back.
But you can't be like, hey, you guys hang here. I'm going to go kill my son.
Right.
Or
So
I guess it couldn't be like, you donkeys, the three of you. Stay here.
good.
Because then he'd look like the donkey.
Yeah, we too much.
We're
So
going to go up there and I'll come back.
yeah. So yeah, right. I mean, you're not going to say that, right? He's going to Las Vegas. He has things to do, like Even though I'll show you at the end of the story, it says that only Abraham came back. Okay, that's it. But we're not up to there yet. You're right. The question is why he wouldn't just simply say, we're going over there to worship, and not say anything. So the commentators say something here which is really, I would say, somewhat surprising. It's not the only place that they say it. It says that Abraham was speaking sort of without carefully choosing his words, and he was really prophesying the end of the story without knowing that that's what he was doing. Niba v'lo yada sheniba. Means a person who's capable of prophecy, even when he's speaking casually, it might have much more significance than even he understands. If someone had stopped him on the moment and said, "Abraham, what? You're both coming back?" He would have said, I wasn't thinking. I was just saying by habit. He wouldn't have taken responsibility for it. Yada Mashaniba. He himself was prophesying, he didn't know himself. But obviously, the words there are problematic. If you take them seriously, they're very problematic. Because what you said also is good. He doesn't want the boys to become disturbed by the project. Okay, now, Abraham took the wood for the offering and placed it on Isaac his son. He took in his hand the fire and the knife, and the two of them went together. Fire means, the way they did it was, all night they had a fire burning, because that way you're protected from animals and you have light. And then they took the coals from the fire and put it in a jug and carried it to the next place, and usually they were hot enough to ignite the next fire. And of course, they're going to offer a sacrifice, so they're going to have to have fire. So there are 3 items: fire, the knife, and the wood. Then Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, saying, "Father," and he said, "Here I am, my son." And Isaac said, "Here are the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering?" So superficially, this sort of makes your question about the wood even stronger. Superficially, if the place of the sacrifice is several days' journey away, you don't take a lamb along with you. That's a big pain, dragging it along and sit down and won't want to go, find food for it, and so on. You buy one in a local market where you're going to offer the sacrifice. A person in those days could walk 30 or 40 miles a day easily, so he could be 100 miles away in 3 days. So he didn't ask, about the animal before, because he didn't expect the animal before. But now you're walking up the mountain. There's no markets over here. You expect to find a wild lamb on the mountain? I mean, where's the animal for the sacrifice? But isn't there something peculiar about the way in which he asks? Look again at 6 and at 7. And see if you can't find something peculiar. I even stressed it when I read it.
He put it on Isaac already.
Yeah. Why is that strange?
Because he put the wood on Isaac.
Well,
Was Isaac already being tied down at this point?
No, he was tied down much later.
Tied down later.
Yeah. But, okay, I'll come back to that. Yeah.
Carrying wood, you can't bolt the moment you realize where's the lamb. You're focused
Yeah.
on, oh man, this wood's heavy.
Maybe. Or you can throw.
Lamb
You can throw. You're 37 years old, right? You can throw it down. His father's 137.
Sure, okay.
I mean, okay, but just look at the numbers here. When they went up the mountain, how many items are mentioned?
Wood, fire, knife.
Wood, fire, and knife. And now Isaac says, "Here are."
Firewood.
Oh, that's 2, not 3. What's missing?
Knife.
The knife is missing.
Is it missing or it's concealed?
Or is it in him?
Well, okay. I mean, he's missing from his words. Missing from his words, right? So then, and in fact, when he says "hine," behold, "hine" is always something that's visible, that you can point to, and one of the commentators says that means it was concealed. He couldn't say "hine" if it was concealed, right? Why is it concealed? So there are those who say that when you go to sacrifice an animal, you shouldn't show it the knife. So he thinks, wait a minute. Up until now, everything's been out in the open. And now, the knife has disappeared. And there's no animal here. That's very strange. That's part of what triggers his question. Where's the animal?
Because it's been concealed, now the jig is up, you're saying?
I mean, it's as if the animal's here, and it isn't here. The purpose of concealing the knife is not to frighten the animal, and we don't have the animal. That's very strange. So that's part of what motivates him to ask where the animal is. And Abraham says, God will seek out for himself the lamb for the offering, my son. And really, although I tried, I can't really push the offering, my son, into it. Push them together and say it's a linguistic hint that the offering is really my son. But I will show you now that, in fact, he got the message. Because there's another big peculiarity in the verses here. Go back to 6. Aaron took the wood for the offering, placed it on Isaac his son, took his hand the fire and the knife, and the two of them went together. They're going up the mountain together. Yeah, together. Let me ask you a question. When they set out from where they were 3 days ago, weren't they all going together? Yeah, it said together with the 2 boys and not with Isaac, but clearly the 4 of them were going together, weren't they? It doesn't say together there. Here it says together at the end of 6, but then at the end of 8, it says it again. God will seek out for himself the lamb by offering my son, and the 2 of them went together. They're halfway up the mountain. Did you have any thought that maybe they'll get to the top by going in different routes? Why say it at all? And why say it twice in 2 psukim? It's very, very strange. So one way to explain it, I see there's a theme today that I didn't even plan. Theme of describing people's feelings, describing people's state of mind. One is to understand this, I think this goes back to the Chidush HaRimah, if I'm not mistaken, that if you're talking about their state of mind, let's picture Abraham and Isaac starting up the mountain. What's going on in Abraham's mind is 2 things. I'm going up the mountain to build an altar and offer a sacrifice to the Creator. It's a wonderful mitzvah, a wonderful opportunity. That's one thing in his mind. And the second thing in his mind is the sacrifice is going to be my son, which, as we will see, is something has to struggle to live with. What's going on in Isaac's mind? Oh, we're going for an offering. We've done this before. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. It's a wonderful opportunity. So Isaac's mind agrees with Abraham's, half of Abraham's mind, only half. But there is that agreement. They're both going to offer a sacrifice. Now Isaac finds out that he's the designated target. What's going on in his mind now? Will they still go up together? How will it together be constructed? Answer, Isaac adds to his dedication to the sacrifice, he adds also that he's going to be the sacrifice, and he goes up with the same two-dimensional mind that his father has. And that's why it says together. They were together to a certain extent when they started up the mountain, and in the middle of the journey, they became together in a much more inclusive and profound way. That's why it says it twice. So he gets it. And that's the justification for saying second time together, because you only say something if it isn't obvious. If you say went together, you have to have the possibility of thinking, no, they wouldn't go together. Where would that come from? In the intervening, there's just, he asks the question, he gets the answer. How would that generate, they're not going together anymore, so the Torah has to tell you they are going together. It's only because he got the message that he's the designated target. So he might have thought that would split them up, and it doesn't. Okay, this is a beginning. You see how this is done. This is taking all the words seriously and trying to work the logic out and trying to make sure that you understand. And by the way I said it with the with, you should always sort of ask yourself, how would I have written that? And check whether the words on the page match what you would have written. As I said, no one would have written, he took his two young men with him and Isaac. No one would write that. They would write, he took his two young men and Isaac with him. So if it isn't the way you would write it, then it's waving a flag. There's something special going on here. That needs to be understood. Okay?
Do we have the S with in modern Hebrew as well, or no?
Yeah, sure. Ito is a modern word. You can say that. You say it all the time. Absolutely. And S for a direct object. Yes, it's certainly a part of modern Hebrew. Now, it's a question of whether I'll be here tomorrow. I'll send a message. I have a bris for a great-grandchild, not the first one, Baruch Hashem, but in Kiryat Gat, which is about 45 minutes from here. And it's supposed to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's really at 2. I can get out of there by 3:15 or 3:30. I should be back for this year. If it's going to be delayed, which sometimes happens, so I'll send a message to the WhatsApp.